Buying a house seems pretty simple on the surface, doesn't it? You see a for sale sign, you fall in love with the place, make an offer, and get the keys. But that sign, that's just the tiny little tip of the iceberg. What's really going on deep underwater is this massive, hidden world of people, money, and rules that makes the whole thing work.
So, let's take a deep dive, shall we? In this explainer, we're going way below the surface. We're going to meet your dream team, we'll follow the money on its pretty wild journey, and then we'll uncover the invisible rules that actually control the land itself. All right, first things first, the people. This is definitely not a solo mission. To get through a real estate deal successfully, you need to assemble a whole team of experts. Each one has a really specific and critical job to do.
So, who are we talking about here? I mean, you obviously know about the real estate agent, right? But the full crew, it's a lot bigger than most people think. Let's break down who's who.
Okay, on one side of the ring, you've got the listing agent. You can also call them the seller's agent. Their job, their entire focus is on the person selling the house. They're there to market that property and fight to get the absolute best price and terms for their client.
And on your side, as the buyer, you have the selling agent, which I know is a confusing name. Just think of them as the buyer's agent. This person is your guide, your advocate. They are 100% in your corner, helping you find the perfect home and negotiate the best deal possible.
Then comes the appraiser. This is a super important, totally independent pro who gets hired by your lender. Their one and only job is to give an unbiased professional opinion on what that house is actually worth. It's a huge deal, because the bank will not lend you more money than the appraiser says the home is worth.
And of course, the home inspector. Think of this person as your personal property detective. For just a few $100, they will go over that house with a fine-tooth comb, from the roof to the foundation. That report they give you, it's your single best defense against discovering some awful, expensive surprise after you move in.
Okay, so you've got your team, you found the house, now we gotta talk money. A mortgage seems simple, right? You just borrow it from a bank. But have you ever stopped to think, where does the bank get literally hundreds of thousands of dollars to lend you? Well, the journey of that money is fascinating.
So every loan has a life cycle, and it starts with these 6 stages. It all begins with origination. That's just you filling out the application. Then it goes into processing, where they check all your info. Underwriting, that's the big one. That's where the lender really digs in and decides, are we going to do this? After that, you close, the loan gets funded, and then it goes into servicing, which is just the fancy term for them collecting your payments every month. Now, here's the secret part of the iceberg nobody sees. You and your bank, you're in the primary mortgage market. But guess what? Your local bank probably isn't going to hold on to your loan for 30 years. Oh no, they turn around and sell it on the secondary mortgage market to huge investors. And why? Because that frees up their cash so they can go make a new loan for the next home buyer. It's all about liquidity. And who are these giant investors buying up all the loans? Well, you've probably heard of them. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and Ginnie Mae. These are the titans of the secondary market. They buy up mortgages by the thousands, which keeps the money flowing through the entire system so that when you need a home loan, the cash is there.
Okay, we've done the people, we've done the money. Now we're going to the deepest, darkest part of the iceberg, the invisible rules. These are the absolute powers the government has over every single inch of property in the country.
The easiest way to remember these 4 powers is the acronym PEAT. That stands for Police Power, Eminent Domain, Taxation, and Escheat. And let's be clear, even if you own your land outright with no mortgage, the government always keeps these 4 rights. First up is police power. Now, this has zero to do with cops. It's the government's right to control how land is used. The biggest example is zoning. Zoning is what says this area is for houses, that area is for shops, and that other area is for factories. It's the reason a skyscraper can't just pop up in the middle of your quiet suburban street. Next is eminent domain. This is the one that gets a lot of attention. It's the government's right to take your private property for public use, say to build a new highway, a school, or a park. The actual act of taking it is called condemnation, but here's the critical part. They have to pay you fair market value for it. Then we have taxation. This one's pretty straightforward. It's the government's right to charge you property taxes. That money funds things like schools, fire departments, you name it. The taxes are ad valorem, which is just a fancy Latin way of saying according to value. And listen, this tax is the #1 priority. If you don't pay your property taxes, you will lose your property. End of story. And finally, we have Escheat. This one's a little obscure, but it's the government's safety net. If someone dies without a will and has no living heirs, no one to inherit the property, it doesn't just sit there empty forever. The ownership goes back to the state. Why? To make sure no land ever becomes unowned and, you guessed it, untaxed.
And the land itself gets categorized too. You might run into terms like greenfields, which is just fresh, undeveloped land. Then you have gray fields, which are properties that have old, abandoned buildings just waiting for a new life. And then there are brownfields. These are old industrial sites that might have some contamination issues. And speaking of those brownfields, there's a whole process for checking them out. It's pretty logical. Phase 1 is the investigation, reviewing records, looking around. If that raises red flags, you move to Phase 2, which is actual testing of the soil and water. And if they find something bad, Phase 3 is the cleanup plan.
Whew! Okay, we have gone from your real estate agent all the way down to taking soil samples. We've looked at the people, the money, and the rules. So, what does it all mean? Let's bring it all back to the surface.
Here's the bottom line. A real estate deal is so much more than what you can see. A successful journey isn't just about finding a house with a nice kitchen. It's about understanding the entire hidden system, the people who guide you, the global river of money that makes it possible, and the ancient rules that govern the very ground beneath your feet. Knowing all of that, that's what gives you real power.
So, I'll leave you with this. That simple for sale sign will probably never look quite the same to you again. Now that you've had a peek at the massive, complex machinery working just below the waves, what new questions are you going to ask on your next property adventure? What are you going to look for?